As the royal convoy prepared to depart Westminster Abbey, the Wales family took a moment to wave goodbye to the crowds that had waited patiently throughout the day. The scene was picture perfect, 5 figures silhouetted against the ancient Gothic architecture, their formal attire creating a striking contrast with the casual dress of the spectators who had come to see them. The drive back to Kensington Palace provided the first opportunity for the family to reflect on the day's events. Inside the car, the formal atmosphere of the ceremony gave way to the natural family dynamics that the public rarely witnessed. Prince George, still impeccable in his suit, finally allowed himself to relax slightly, though his posture remained remarkably good throughout the journey. Princess Charlotte was visibly energized by the day's events, chattering excitedly about the people she had met and the flowers she had received. Her arms were full of bouquets from well-wishers, and she carefully examined each one, reading the cards and messages that had been attached. Her genuine interest in these gifts showed the empathy and consideration that would serve her well in future royal duties. Prince Louis, despite his young age, seemed to understand that something significant had happened. He sat quietly in his car seat, occasionally pointing out the window at landmarks they passed, but with a thoughtfulness that suggested he was processing the day's experiences. His behavior throughout the entire event had been exemplary, marking a clear milestone in his development as a young royal. William and Catherine exchanged the kind of look that only parents share after watching their children excel in challenging circumstances. The pride in their eyes was unmistakable, but it was tempered with the knowledge that this was just one step in their children's lifelong preparation for royal service. Back at Kensington Palace, the family's arrival was greeted by staff who had watched the ceremony on television and were eager to congratulate the children on their performance. The young royals graciously accepted the praise, but their parents were careful to keep the celebrations low-key, emphasizing that such behavior should be expected rather than exceptional. As the day wound down and formal clothes were changed for more comfortable attire, the Wales children demonstrated that their growth extended beyond public appearances. They helped each other out of their ceremonial outfits, with George assisting Louis with his jacket buttons and Charlotte carefully hanging up her special dress. The evening brought family time that reminded everyone that despite their public roles, these were still children who needed the normalcy of family dinner, bedtime stories, and parental guidance. Yet even in these private moments, the maturity they had displayed throughout the day remained evident. Social media exploded with praise for the family's appearance, with countless posts marveling at how grown-up the children looked and behaved. Professional photographers who had covered royal events for decades declared it one of the most successful family appearances in recent memory, praising both the children's individual performances and their cohesion as a family unit. Royal commentators noted that the day's events had provided a glimpse into the future of the monarchy, showing a new generation that seemed well prepared for the responsibilities that awaited them. The children's natural grace, genuine warmth, and obvious comfort with public attention suggested that the institution would be in capable hands. Perhaps most importantly, the day demonstrated that William and Catherine's approach to raising their children was producing remarkable results. By combining traditional royal training with modern parenting techniques, they had created an environment where their children could develop into confident, capable young people who understood both their privileges and their responsibilities. As night fell over London, the Wales family settled into their evening routines, but the memory of the day would remain with all who witnessed it. The children who had once hidden behind their parents' legs or created delightful chaos during public appearances had shown themselves to be developing into poised, engaging young royals who seemed genuinely excited about their future roles. The transformation was complete, but this was clearly just the beginning of their journey. As working members of the royal family, Westminster Abbey had witnessed another historic moment, not in the form of a coronation or state ceremony, but in the quiet revelation that the monarchy's future was secure in the hands of 3 extraordinary young people who had grown up far more than anyone could have imagined. As the formal ceremony drew to a close, the Wales family prepared for what many considered the most challenging part of any royal engagement, the public walkabout. Unlike the controlled environment of Westminster Abbey, stepping outside meant facing hundreds of excited spectators, dozens of photographers, and the unpredictable energy of a crowd that had been waiting for hours to catch a glimpse of the royal children. The Abbey doors opened to reveal a sea of faces, Union Jack flags and smartphone cameras all pointed in their direction. The roar of the crowd was immediately overwhelming, but the Wales children handled the transition from the sacred quiet of the Abbey to the celebratory chaos outside with remarkable composure. Prince George was the first to emerge into the sunlight, and the crowd's reaction was instantaneous and deafening. Chants of his name mixed with general cheers of excitement as people realized how much taller and more mature he appeared since his last major public appearance. The young prince acknowledged the crowd with a dignified wave, showing none of the shyness that had characterized his earlier public outings. What struck observers most was George's natural ability to pace himself during the walkabout. Rather than rushing through the crowd or appearing overwhelmed by the attention, he moved deliberately from group to group, making eye contact with well-wishers and even stopping to accept flowers from children who had been waiting to meet him. His interactions were brief but genuine, showing that he had learned to balance royal protocol with personal warmth. Princess Charlotte's performance during the walkabout was nothing short of spectacular. The young princess seemed to come alive in the crowd, her natural charisma shining as she moved from person to person with infectious enthusiasm. Her blue dress fluttered perfectly in the breeze, and her smile never faltered despite the overwhelming attention focused on her. The princess demonstrated an intuitive understanding of how to work a crowd, stopping frequently to chat with children her own age and accepting countless bouquets of flowers with genuine gratitude. Her interactions felt natural and unforced, suggesting that she possessed the same gift for connecting with people that had made her grandmother, Princess Diana, so beloved. One particularly touching moment occurred when Charlotte encountered a little girl in a wheelchair who had been waiting at the front of the barriers for hours. Without any prompting from her parents or security, the princess immediately crouched down to the child's level, engaging in an animated conversation that left both girls giggling with delight. The spontaneous interaction was captured by dozens of cameras and would later be shared millions of times on social media. Prince Louis, despite being the youngest, proved that he too had inherited the family's ability to charm crowds. The little prince's walkabout was carefully managed, with his mother staying close by, but his enthusiasm for meeting people was evident in every interaction. His tiny waves and bright smiles drew awes from the crowd, and his obvious joy at receiving small gifts and flowers was infectious. The most remarkable aspect of Louis's participation was his stamina. Previous public appearances had sometimes ended early when the youngest prince became tired or overwhelmed, but today he maintained his energy and positive attitude throughout the entire walkabout. His growth in handling public attention was perhaps the most dramatic of all three children. William and Catherine moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, but their pride in their children's performance was obvious. They frequently exchanged glances and subtle smiles as they watched George, Charlotte, and Louis navigate their interactions with increasing confidence and skill. The parents struck the perfect balance between guidance and independence, stepping in only when necessary while allowing their children to develop their own relationships with the public. Their confidence in their children's abilities was evident in how much freedom they gave them during the walkabout. Security personnel, who had worked with the family for years, noted how much easier their job had become as the children matured. Instead of having to constantly monitor for potential meltdowns or inappropriate behavior, they could focus on crowd control and logistics, trusting that the young royals would handle themselves appropriately. The walkabout continued for nearly 45 minutes, far longer than many had expected given the children's ages. By the time they returned to their cars, all three Wales children had not only maintained their composure, but had genuinely seemed to enjoy the experience of meeting their future subjects. As the ceremony reached its most solemn moments, the Wales children demonstrated a level of maturity that surprised even the most experienced royal watchers. The Abbey fell into a hushed reverence as prayers were offered and ancient rituals were performed with the precision that only centuries of tradition could create. Prince George's behavior during these quiet moments was particularly noteworthy. Rather than fidgeting or showing signs of boredom that would be natural for someone his age, he remained perfectly still and attentive. His eyes followed the proceedings with genuine interest, and he seemed to understand the historical significance of what he was witnessing. The young prince's ability to maintain such composure for an extended period spoke volumes about his preparation and natural temperament. The most touching moment came when the Children were invited to participate in a special blessing. Princess Charlotte rose from her seat with the confidence of someone twice her age, her movements graceful and purposeful. She walked to the altar with her head held high, her blue dress creating a beautiful silhouette against the ancient stone backdrop of the abbey. As Charlotte knelt for the blessing, her composure was absolute. The little girl who had once been known for her playful interactions with the media had transformed into a young lady capable of participating in the most sacred royal ceremonies. Her prayers were offered with sincerity, and her respectful demeanor throughout the blessing drew admiring glances from clergy and congregation alike. Prince Louis's turn came next, and perhaps no moment better illustrated how much the youngest Wales child had grown. Walking independently to the altar, he no longer needed his mother's guidance for every step. His tiny suit moved perfectly with his measured pace, and his serious expression showed that he understood the importance of the moment, even if he might not grasp all its complexities. The sight of the youngest prince kneeling beside his sister created an image that would be treasured by royal historians for generations. Their matching formal attire and synchronized movements demonstrated not only their individual growth, but also their development as a team, supporting each other through the demands of royal life. When Prince George joined his siblings at the altar, the three children together created a vision of the monarchy's future that was both inspiring and reassuring. Their coordinated movements, respectful postures, and genuine participation in the sacred ritual showed that the careful nurturing they had received from their parents was producing remarkable results. The clergy performing the blessing seemed genuinely moved by the children's reverent behavior. These were not children going through empty motions, but young people who had been taught to understand and respect the traditions they were inheriting. Their responses to the prayers were clear and confident, showing that they had been well prepared for this moment. William and Catherine watched from their seats with visible pride, but also with the careful attention of parents who knew that their children were still learning to navigate these complex public roles. Their subtle nods of encouragement and discreet guidance when needed showed the delicate balance they maintained between supporting their children and allowing them independence. The congregation's reaction to the children's participation was evident in the gentle smiles and nods of approval that rippled through the abbey. Many of those present had watched these children grow up through public appearances over the years, and seeing them handle such a significant ceremony with such grace was deeply moving. As the blessing concluded and the children returned to their seats, they moved with the quiet confidence of young people who had successfully met an important challenge. Their walk back down the aisle was unhurried but purposeful, showing that they had absorbed the solemnity of the moment while maintaining their natural poise. The remainder of the ceremony continued with the children maintaining their exemplary behavior. They sang hymns with clear voices, listened attentively to readings, and responded appropriately to all the ritual requirements. Their transformation from the energetic children, often seen at casual royal events, to these composed young participants in sacred ceremony was remarkable to witness and would be discussed in royal circles for months to come. The interior of Westminster Abbey was even more magnificent than the crowds outside could imagine. Soaring Gothic arches reached toward heaven, their stone curves creating patterns of light and shadow that had inspired visitors for nearly 1,000 years. Today, the ancient building seemed to glow with an inner light as sunbeams filtered through the stained glass windows, casting rainbow reflections across the stone floors. As the Wales family walked down the aisle, their footsteps echoed softly against the worn stones that had been polished smooth by centuries of royal processions. The abbey was filled with distinguished guests, including members of parliament, foreign dignitaries, and representatives from various charities and organizations that the royal family supported. Prince George walked beside his father with remarkable poise for someone his age. His posture was perfect, his pace measured, and his expression appropriately serious for the solemn occasion. Observers noted how he seemed to naturally fall into step with William, as if years of training had prepared him for exactly this moment. The young prince's maturity was evident not just in his appearance, but in his behavior and understanding of the ceremony's significance. Princess Charlotte moved with the grace of a natural performer, but her performance was genuine rather than rehearsed. She had always possessed a spark of charisma that set her apart, and today that quality was more evident than ever. Her dress flowed beautifully as she walked, and she maintained perfect composure despite the hundreds of eyes following her every movement. The princess had clearly inherited her mother's ability to make formal occasions feel warm and personal. Her smile, though appropriate for the setting, still conveyed the joy and enthusiasm that had made her such a beloved figure since her first public appearances as a toddler. Prince Louis, holding tightly to his mother's hand, navigated the ceremony with surprising maturity. The little prince who had once made headlines for his animated expressions during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee had learned to channel his energy appropriately. His eyes were wide with wonder at the grandeur surrounding him, but he remained calm and focused throughout the procession. The sight of the three children together created a powerful image of the monarchy's future. Each child brought their own personality to the moment while respecting the traditions and protocols that governed such occasions. Their parents' careful guidance over the years was evident in every step they took and every gesture they made. Catherine maintained her role as the perfect royal mother, gently guiding her children while allowing them to shine in their own right. Her navy dress created an elegant backdrop for her children's formal attire, and her presence seemed to give them confidence while keeping them grounded. Years of experience had taught her exactly when to intervene and when to let her children handle situations independently. The Abbey's choir began a hymn that seemed to make the very stones vibrate with harmony. The music added another layer of majesty to an already extraordinary scene, and the Wales children responded appropriately, joining in where they knew the words and maintaining respectful silence during the more complex passages. As they took their designated seats in the front pews, the family's positioning created another striking visual. 3 generations sat together, representing past, present, and future of the British monarchy. William and Catherine flanked their children, creating a protective circle while still allowing each child to participate fully in the ceremony. The service itself was deeply moving, combining ancient traditions with contemporary relevance. The children listened attentively to the readings and prayers, their faces reflecting genuine interest rather than the bored expressions that might be expected from young people at such a formal event. Throughout the ceremony, photographers captured countless moments that would later be analyzed and celebrated in media around the world. The way George helped his younger brother with his program, Charlotte's attentive listening during the sermon, and Louis's careful observation of everything around him, all provided evidence of their growth and development as young members of the royal family. The transformation from the playful children often seen at casual family events to these poised young royals was remarkable to witness. Yet beneath the formal behavior, their individual personalities still shone through, creating a perfect balance between royal duty and authentic childhood expression. The car door opened and Prince William stepped out first, his polished shoes touching the red carpet with practiced precision. The roar of the crowd was immediate and overwhelming, a wall of sound that seemed to bounce off the ancient stones of Westminster Abbey. Camera flashes created a strobe effect that would have blinded most people. But William had learned to navigate these moments with the skill of someone born into the spotlight. Catherine followed, her grace evident in every movement. The navy dress she had chosen flowed perfectly as she moved, and her smile was warm and genuine as she acknowledged the cheering crowds. Years of royal engagements had taught her exactly how to balance approachability with dignity, and today she embodied both qualities flawlessly. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Prince George emerged from the royal car, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The young prince who had once been carried in his mother's arms was now a tall, confident young man. His resemblance to his father was striking, but he carried himself with a unique blend of William's seriousness and Catherine's warmth. Social media immediately exploded with comments about how grown-up George looked. People who remembered him as a shy toddler hiding behind his mother's skirts could hardly believe their eyes. His suit fit him perfectly, and he walked with the measured steps of someone who understood the importance of the occasion. The way he stood straight and kept his hands clasped behind his back showed years of careful training in royal protocol. Princess Charlotte stepped out next, and if the crowd's reaction to George was impressive, their response to Charlotte was absolutely electric. The little girl who had stolen hearts at previous royal events had transformed into a poised young lady. Her blue dress complemented her mother's outfit perfectly, creating a coordinated look that photographers would later describe as picture perfect. Charlotte's confidence was remarkable for someone her age. She smiled and even offered a small wave to the crowd, showing the natural charisma that seemed to run in the royal bloodline. Her hair had been styled in a sophisticated half-up style that made her look mature beyond her years, while still maintaining the sweetness that made her so beloved by the public. The crowd held its breath as Prince Louis appeared. The youngest Wales child had always been known for his spirited personality and adorable public appearances, but today he surprised everyone with his composure. Still small enough to hold his mother's hand, he nevertheless walked with purpose and seemed genuinely interested in the ceremony ahead, rather than overwhelmed by the attention. His miniature suit was identical to his father's and brother's, complete with tiny medals that caught the light beautifully. The sight of 3 generations of royal men dressed identically created a powerful visual that spoke to the continuity of the monarchy and the careful preparation of the next generation. The family paused at the entrance to Westminster Abbey, allowing photographers to capture what would become one of the most iconic family portraits of recent years. William's protective stance, Catherine's elegant poise, and the children's remarkable composure created an image that perfectly captured the modern royal family's blend of tradition and accessibility. Abbey officials waited respectfully inside, ready to guide the family through the ancient corridors that had witnessed so much history. The same stones that had seen the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II and countless other monarchs would now witness another chapter in the ongoing story of Britain's royal family. As they prepared to enter the sacred space, each family member seemed to transform slightly. The casual family dynamic gave way to the formal roles they would play in the ceremony ahead. George straightened his shoulders even more. Charlotte smoothed her dress one final time, and Louis looked up at his parents with the trust that only young children possess. The massive wooden doors of Westminster Abbey stood open before them, revealing the breathtaking interior that never failed to inspire awe in visitors. Today, this ancient place of worship would serve as the backdrop for a ceremony that would be remembered for years to come, particularly for showcasing how much the Wales children had grown and matured in their royal roles. The morning sun cast a golden glow over Westminster Abbey as crowds began gathering along the historic streets of London. Something special was happening today, and people from all corners of the city had come to witness it. The ancient stones of the Abbey seemed to whisper with anticipation as security teams made their final preparations. Inside Kensington Palace, the Wales family was having their usual morning chaos. Prince William stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his formal uniform for what felt like the 100th time. The weight of royal duties always felt heavier on days like these, but today carried an extra significance that made his heart race with both pride and nervousness. Catherine emerged from the dressing room, looking every inch the future queen in her elegant navy dress. Her stylist had worked magic with her hair, creating a sophisticated updo that would photograph beautifully. But her mind wasn't on fashion or cameras today. She was thinking about her children and how this day would be remembered in the history books they would read years from now. Prince George, now taller and more composed than anyone could have imagined, sat quietly in his room. At his age, he understood the weight of these occasions better than most children his age. The young prince had been practicing his posture and public behavior for weeks, knowing that today would be different from their usual family outings. His formal suit lay perfectly pressed on his bed, a smaller version of his father's official attire. Princess Charlotte was having her own moment of preparation in her room. The young princess had grown from a chubby-cheeked toddler into a poised young lady seemingly overnight. Her dress, a beautiful creation in soft blue, hung ready for the day's ceremonies. She had been looking forward to this day for months, asking her mother countless questions about royal protocol and what would be expected of her. Prince Louis, the youngest of the 3, was bouncing with excitement in the nursery. Even at his tender age, he seemed to sense that today was important. His energy was infectious, bringing smiles to everyone around him despite the formal nature of the day ahead. His tiny suit had been tailored to perfection, complete with miniature medals that sparkled in the morning light. The palace staff moved with practiced efficiency, ensuring every detail was perfect. Hairstylists, wardrobe assistants, and security personnel all played their part in preparing the family for what would become one of the most photographed royal appearances of the year. The children's nanny made sure each young royal had eaten a proper breakfast, knowing the long day ahead would test their patience and energy. As the royal convoy prepared to leave Kensington Palace, crowds had already formed along the route to Westminster Abbey. People held their phones high, hoping to catch a glimpse of the family that had captured hearts around the world. Tour buses full of visitors from distant countries had arrived early, their passengers eager to witness a piece of living history. The drive through London felt both eternal and instant. William and Catherine exchanged knowing looks as they watched their children peer out the windows at the gathering crowds. Each child reacted differently to the attention. George maintained his composure with remarkable maturity. Charlotte waved enthusiastically at the people lining the streets, and Louis pressed his face against the glass with wide-eyed wonder. Westminster Abbey loomed before them, its Gothic towers reaching toward the cloudy London sky. The same ancient building that had witnessed coronations, weddings, and state occasions for nearly 1,000 years was ready to welcome another generation of royals. The red carpet had been rolled out, creating a pathway that seemed to bridge the gap between past and future. As their car slowed to a stop, the family took a collective breath. This moment would be captured by hundreds of photographers and broadcast to millions of people around the world. But for William and Catherine, it was simply another day of showing their children what it meant to serve their country and carry on the traditions that had shaped their nation for centuries.